Hi, how are you today? My name's Paul, and I'm a speech pathologist, and I've been working with your father for the past few weeks.
Hey Paul, nice to meet you. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
So I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but I've had a few conversations. If you like, I can give you a really quick rundown about his speech and language. But before that, were there any other concerns you had?
Honestly, I don't think he's been doing as well recently. During recent visits, it's come to my attention that he's been a lot more forgetful. And I understand this can be related to old age, but it's been getting progressively worse since his dementia diagnosis. It's slightly concerning as he's been forgetting important things like meal times and when to take medication.
That's terrible. That was actually one of the most apparent features that I noticed. And it's really reflecting his communication as well, I think. So during my visit with your father, we talked about quite a few issues. We talked about his previous job, his travelling, past interests, hobbies, things like that. But I found it a bit sad because he had trouble with a few of those topics, mainly because his dementia was severely impacting his ability to recall memories, to recall facts, and sometimes word finding difficulties as well.
Yeah, I think me and my family, we've noticed that as well. Do you think there was any aspect of his memory more impacted than others?
Look, it's hard to put a pin on it, but I think in particular his word finding difficulties were the most impacted. He really couldn't remember the names of specific cars that he liked, also medicine that he needs to take.
Is there anything else that we can do to help him with his memory?
Look, there's no cure for dementia. There's no complete cure for dementia at this moment, which is quite unfortunate, but hopefully in the future they'll develop something a bit stronger. But there are a few ways to help him remember and make his life a bit easier, particularly with remembering meal times and stuff like that. Just to kind of ease him into his daily activities and his routine and things like that. So we have developed a resource for your father, but it's clearly up to you and your family and him whether you'd like to use it or not. It's completely understandable if you don't. But we hope that it will provide at least some assistance or comfort or support where he needs it. So our resource is basically just a schedule, right, a timetable, a visual timetable, and it has all of the events and activities that he needs throughout the week. So, for example, it has activities at the aged care facility, like trivia, like bingo, happy hour, things like that. It has important appointments that he needs, like a hairdressing appointment, GP's appointment, doctor's appointment, things like that. And it also has like meal times, because remember, especially he was struggling to remember meal times.
Yeah.
And it's quite sad when he gets left behind or misses a meal and things like that. It gets a bit difficult. So we've made a timetable of all of these things and the times of them and where he should be, and we can hang it up on the back of his door if you like, and hopefully maybe that will help him remember a bit and make his life a bit easier.
Yeah, that sounds lovely, and I think he will really benefit from that timetable, especially because me and my siblings, we can't always be there for him, and we understand that the centre is busy with other residents as well. So yeah, I definitely think that the resource will help him a lot, and thanks for doing that.
That's right, look, no worries at all. There were also some other aspects of your father's communication that we noticed to be a bit of an issue when we were talking to him. Would you like me to divulge into a bit more depth with these issues?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to know what other aspects of his communication are impaired.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're already aware, but the main thing that we notice, and probably the most significant impairment besides his memory loss, is his severe and profound hearing impairment.
Yeah.
But besides that, we also seem to notice that his voice quality, so how his voice sounds, was definitely a little bit impacted and a little bit like rough and soft and things like that. But I think it was definitely less impactful in comparison to his hearing impairment and in comparison to his memory loss.
His hearing is definitely a significant issue that we struggle with, and it is clear that it bothers him as well. We also find it really tough to have patients to have a conversation with him when he struggles to hear almost every second word that we say.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be extremely difficult, particularly for everyone involved. So we noticed that when we were talking to him, there were quite a few environmental factors that influenced his hearing, really both positively and negatively. When he struggled to hear us, which was quite often, I agree with you, he consciously closed the window that was next to his head, and this really helped him because it shut out all the background noise and it stopped the cars from coming past to distract him, right? And in a similar way, he also muted the TV, and when he muted the TV, it really helped him focus on us and make sure that there was no background noise that was impacting or influencing negatively his hearing.
Yeah, I think we've noticed that he does use those strategies when he's with us as well, and we think that they're a great way to manage his hearing impairment thus far. We've also just made the simple but important decision to speak really loud, clear, and extremely slowly when we are with him to give him the best chance of hearing what we have to say.
I think that's a really admirable decision on your behalf. I'm sure that really helps him so much more than you can ever imagine.
Do you think there's any other strategies that could assist him with this issue?
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely suggest some stuff. So we noticed that he was wearing hearing aids when we were having our chat. Does he wear these very often?
To be honest, he actually doesn't wear these very often, and he tells us that he doesn't think that they help him.
Well, that's not too good to hear. That's definitely a common issue with people who wear and use hearing aids. They usually misplace them or the batteries don't work. They're not tuned properly. So I would suggest strongly that he sees an audiologist because they're usually able to get to the bottom of the issue of why the hearing aids aren't working. And they can provide a lot more insight than myself or any other speech pathologist can because they're really toned into those kind of issues. And they also might be able to give you some professional strategies and some insight into helping him in his daily life, particularly with his hearing. Whereas we can only give you some really general strategies as a speech pathologist. If you like, I can recommend a few good audiologists that I know. They're quite exceptional and they're quite close to you. Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, please, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So before we finish, I might mention one last thing about your father's voice. So I mentioned before that his vocal quality wasn't the best that it could be.
Yeah.
Have you noticed this?
Yeah, definitely. I think on some days his voice is a bit croakier than normal, and I often have trouble hearing him when there's a lot of background noise present. But I think that would just be something related to old age.
Yeah, look, it definitely could be related to old age. That's 100% possible. But there is a few concerns that might take place considering, if you don't mind me asking a few questions, I'm considering the answers to those questions.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So basically, the main thing I'm trying to get to the bottom of is whether it was a sudden onset, which means that their symptoms like the hoarse voice and the really soft vocal quality, did they come along overnight, or were they over months or years?
Well, I don't think I've actually noticed these things until you've just mentioned them. So I don't think it was a sudden onset. I think it definitely would be a gradual sort of thing.
That's good. So that's definitely reassuring. But if there are any further issues in regards to his voice or vocal quality, please feel free to contact me or any other speech pathologist at any time. But as long as he's not concerned or affected, his communication is not affected by this, then it's completely fine. There shouldn't be too much of a drama with it. Particularly because we barely even noticed it. It was only a very small issue. However, if it does deteriorate, please again don't